I guess we're going to be welcoming you to the Bible Forum. It's 8 o'clock on a Sunday night, and my phone just started ringing. I was trying to find it. I don't even know where it is. Somebody's calling to find out if we're going to be on the air, no doubt. But we are here. You don't need to worry. If you're the one calling, hang up. You're interrupting the show. Elmore and Sprouts, we're welcoming you to the Bible Forum here this October, rainy October 4th in Charleston, South Carolina, where Hurricane Joaquin never really made an appearance. We have had horrific rain in the area. Tremendous amount of water has come down and filled up every nook and cranny, and you can imagine on the coast in the low-lying areas, and Charleston is very low. They call it the low country for a reason. But it hasn't been hard rain. It hasn't been hurricane winds. It hasn't been anything to write home about unless you were living on a very low plane. If you were living somewhere, uh, where your house was sitting kind of down on the ground somewhere, you had some serious problems. We had news reports this whole weekend of people who saw the pictures of them walking around in their house with water up to the middle of their thighs somewhere, 3 feet of water. We haven't had anything like that. There's been some roads flooded out. We didn't get to church this morning, tried to. But the road we use is a slow sloping and back, and it was gone. And we went around the other way, but it was blocked as well. And there's only one other way to do it, and that would have meant going all the way through Somerville and out the country roads in the back and coming around, and surely one of them would have been blocked up somewhere, somehow. So we stayed home, and they shut church down for this evening just because. School was out Friday, school was out tomorrow. There's just a lot of water. A lot of water. Lake in back of our house was about 10 inches low, lower than I've ever seen it. And it was this morning, it was about 10 inches high. And then this afternoon, it kind of leveled out where it's supposed to be. They're still calling for more rain. And those of you up in Wilmington, North Carolina, you're getting it now. I got an email a little bit ago from a gal, and she said that it's been raining, and it's been raining apparently pretty hard. We didn't get the hard rain, at least not out here. We're 20 miles out of Charleston, and maybe we just got protected. I don't know. But we're going to spend this time together this evening. We've got a lot of things to talk about. You know what they are if you get our email. This is the email that goes out, and it gives you pictures and all kinds of stuff. These are the pictures from the blog, and you should be signed up for my blogs. There's about 5 of them. Well, I think there's 4. But the BibleForum.net has a blog, and you need to put your email address in there so when I write something, you get it. It comes right into your inbox. Dear friend of mine, missionary in New York to the Jews, wrote to me this week to tell me about an event, something that took place, comment and so forth, and a link so that I could see it. And I wrote back and I told him, I said, so you didn't read my blog. I'd already written on that subject. Of course, I had one little part wrong, and the article that he sent me corrected that. And I quickly went in and made the adjustment. But, he was kind of shamefacedly said, well, I guess I missed that one. It was in the inbox. He just, how you guys are. You don't look at everything. You just, that came up. It was, we're going to talk about that later. But I know that you guys don't sign up for everything. Try biblicalcounseling.net. The View from Zoar.com, livinggodly.net. You haven't signed up for all of those. I'm sure you haven't. And I don't write on all of them all the time, but they do have things that come up, and it's important stuff. You need to know what it is. And now this week I got an email from our web designer, web guy, and showed me what the new Bible Institute website's going to look like. It isn't out there where you can see it yet, but I saw it, and it's purty. I told you last week, behind this sign that's standing on the wall behind me, is another sign. And it's a picture, and it's the banner behind me for when we do the Bible Institute. We're getting there. It's coming up. Web guy was working on linking the Bible Institute Ustream channel with the Bible Institute email so that we can upload the YouTubes directly into the Bible Institute's YouTube page. The idea is that when you decide that you want to be a part of this process, you sign up, you register. I will be able to send you a link to that YouTube. Either that or I will be able to send you the YouTube, whichever. I'm hoping I can just send you the link for that particular YouTube. But I can control it because I know where they are if that kind of thing is happening. Anyway, we're getting close. Going to work on it a little bit this week, put some more stuff on the front page explaining things. But you can see the promo for the Bible Institute if you go to the sermonaudio.com page. Bible Forum has a sermon audio page. You know it is there because if you're watching now, you're at the website, thebibleforum.net, and down at the bottom on the right-hand side, there's a link for sermon audio. Takes you right there. And the first thing you see, there's an introductory thing. That's me, and that's all about the Bible. It's about 6 minutes. We're going to leave that up there. We'll put it on the Bible Forum website as well when the time comes. There are other things that are swirling about. This evening I was having some problems getting the camera to work. Every week I look at the camera and I think, I wonder how much longer that camera is going to last. I wonder when I'm going to have to spend money to buy a new camera. And then during the week, I look at my computer and I think, I wonder how old that is and how long that's going to last. And my laptop is over here and it's even older. You just kind of go to bed with these things on your mind. This week on the Bible Forum email, if you received one, you should be signing up for this. Give me your email address. I'll take care of you. I mentioned to you that tonight is the beginning of something going backwards. You are watching on the Bible Forum's website, but you are watching through the window of Ustream.tv. And if you're doing that, you have already seen a commercial. And it's not a lot of fun, is it? Even the ones that are set up to run throughout the week, there's a commercial. And the reason is that it costs upwards of $150 to $200 a month to make sure you don't get those commercials. And I can no longer afford that. The Bible Forum account is getting small, and we've got to protect it as much as we can. Now, if you notice, you can click the word Ustream at the bottom. It'll take you to the Ustream page where you can watch. And at the bottom of that screen, it says if you want not to watch these commercials, you can sign up for $3.99 a month, and you'll never see another commercial. And I mentioned that in the email this week because if there are some souls out there that can afford a few shekels, I think I figured out that if 5 or 6 folks would give $30 a month, we wouldn't have to fool with that anymore. And everybody would get to see uninterrupted. And you'd get a shirt. Get a Bible Forum shirt. You know what else you would get? You'd get a book. Where's my book? Should have these props all the way here. I just got this in the mail this week. This is the final form. And I looked at it and it came out really nice. I've already found one mistake, but the pages, everything, you can't see that. The pages came out okay, everything looks right. And so I went ahead with the publisher and said, turn it loose, let's go for it. Eventually it'll show up on Amazon.com, it'll show up at BarnesandNoble.com, 4 or 5 other places. But for those of you who have been in the habit of any time in the life of this ministry that you sent money to the Bible Forum, one of these is showing up in your mailbox. one of these will show up in your mailbox. Now, it'll take a couple of weeks. They got to print them up one at a time, and they mail them from Massachusetts. I don't know why, but it'll take them 4 or 5 days probably to get this mailed out, and it'll be 7 days after that maximum. It'll be in your mailbox. And you say, "Well, I don't really want it." Yeah, I know you don't want it, but I want you to have it. Now, this is not different. This is not a new book. This is That the Lame May Walk in an updated format with a new title and a new look. Never did like the old look a whole lot. And so I just, it's a little smaller, easier to handle. It's all the same material. It's 90 something pages. I mean, but they're small pages, easy to read. I think you'll enjoy the new format. If you'd like some extras to give to people, just let me know. I'll set that up and we'll take care of it. They are going to be priced at $7.95. We got to take care of the shipping. So you figure out whatever you think it's worth. If you are a regular contributor, you tell me you want this to go somewhere, and just give me something close to that amount, and we'll take care of it. How's that? Don't remember if there's anything else that really, it's kind of housekeeping. And I know that some of you who are watching, maybe from sermonaudio.com, you never saw this show. Okay, I want to hear from well, I'm recording every minute of the Bible Forum. This first section is an introductory to the whole rest of the evening. And I'm doing that because as soon as the show is over, I can upload the videos to the YouTube page, which automatically converts them into a format that Sermon Audio can use. And then sometime on Monday morning, I upload those to Sermon Audio. And now it becomes even more important because if they get to Sermon Audio, there's no commercials. So if you're used to just going to the website, BibleForum.net, and you watch it in the carousel that's there, and you don't want to click the Sermon Audio button. They're there. All of them are there. And you'll be able to watch them without commercials. The downside, other than commercials, is that you will not be able very much longer to go on the Ustream page and check out something that happened last July. By not paying a monthly fee, they don't store more than 30 days worth of YouTube's videos. However, on Sermon Audio, since we've been doing this, I think it's 6 months or so, 5 months, they're there. More than 30 days. However, Sermon Audio costs money too. If things don't change, that's probably going to be the next thing that's going to go. We also have the pastor's email newsletter, Rod and Staff. I mentioned that in the email that I sent out. This is a ministry to and for pastors. If you know a pastor, send me his email address, just the church address, anything, and I'll put it on there and we'll send this out. Might be an encouragement to him, who knows. We're going to have what's called a pastor's colloquy. That's a 50-cent word, meaning that we're having a conference, but it's a different kind of a conference. It's not a lecture format so much as it's an interactive, it's a learning, debating kind of thing. In the Titusville, Florida area in October 19th is the date that we've set aside for that. If you're in that area, in the Florida, Georgia area, and you'd like to come, you need to let me know. Send me an email, RSVP. If we don't get a certain number of pastors willing to come, then we're probably not going to have it. Right now, we're looking at trying to get at least a half a dozen or a dozen, or at least to make it worthwhile. It'd be great to have 100. We're not worried about it either way. We're just praying about it. So if you are interested in that, let your pastor know. Give me his name, address, and I'll send him stuff. It's only once a month. We don't drive people crazy with these things. And I think it'll be beneficial. We do have a number of things that I want to talk to you about tonight. You can see if you get the email on the back, there's pictures of the Oregon shooter, this young fellow who went into a community college with several weapons and asked people if they were Christian. And if they said yes, then he shot them in the head. And if they said no, he shot them in the leg. Our president went on, you saw him. He was quite passionate, quite moved, and I gave him points for emotion, for sincerity, because I think he is sincere. He thinks it's a gun problem. I wrote about it this week because you know me, and you know that I don't think it's a gun problem. The pundits, the social architects, the president himself, they're all out in force, pointing their finger at these inanimate objects. And the reality is that, yeah, they did the trick, they did the job, but if there were no guns, he'd have done it with a knife. If there were no knives, he'd have done it with a stick, rocks, anything. He'd have done it with a car, whatever it is. We're here in Charleston, South Carolina area. These folks are still feeling the effect of the massacre down on Calhoun Street. Many cities around the country have experienced the same sort of senseless brutality in a number of different ways. And is it just pure circumstance? Is that what this is? Or is there something more fundamentally wrong with our society? I think the latter is true. And I think you understand it as well. You can't spend 50 years destroying the family, making drugs the cure for everything, eliminating all forms of objective moral standards, numbing our children's minds with salacious entertainment, and then turn around and think that, well, if I just ban guns, everything will be fine. It doesn't work like that. We'll talk about that. We'll talk a little bit about the Donald, too. This was what my friend in New York was sending me the email about. Apparently, Paula White, Pastrix in Florida, invited a whole bunch of what they call evangelical preachers and others to come to New York to the Trump Tower and meet with Donald Trump. And that happened this past week on the 29th of the month. And they sat around this large table. You can Google it. You can see it. Google Images. Just put it in there and you'll see the table, the windows. I mean, it was a pretty environment. They listed the people who were there. They talked about the kinds of things that went on. And then they had a video. And the video showed all of these evangelists and preachers and wannabes gathered around the Donald while Kenneth Copeland prayed God's blessing upon him. And while another fellow who it turned out was a representative for Jews for Jesus quickly turned and put his hands over Donald's face and prayed for him. And then I thought he was praying in tongues, but it turned out it was a Hebrew version of the Aaronic prayer. May the Lord bless you and keep you and so forth. Moving kind of thing. However, Jan Crouch was there. And not too far from her was David Jeremiah. And somehow the evangelical community is embracing all of these groups as if they're evangelicals. I give credit. One of the fellows works nationally for the Southern Baptist Convention, came out with a statement this week that done him proud. And he said, evangelicals look at these charismatics as, I'm trying to use the word that he used, heretics. Why are we mixing with these people as if they're normal? Todd Bentley just raised a man from the dead in Pakistan. Did you see that one? I'm going to write about that this week. It came out late. There's actually a video. Somebody used their phone, and there was a video of this guy laying on the ground. And there's Todd Bentley. Not very spiritual. Smacking him. Get up. Wake up. Come back. No real prayer. And, no ointment, and laying hands. None of that stuff. Just kind of slapping him around and telling him to get up. I thought it was interesting. And he did. Raised him from the dead. Can I get an amen? No. Didn't happen. Didn't happen. Anybody who, by their own volition or whatever, raises somebody from the dead, it will be worldwide news. People will be at their door. The news people will come away from their door for years. It doesn't happen. The guy passed out, apparently because of the environment. My guess is because Bentley is a crazed lunatic when it comes to the charismatic thing. This is the guy that kicked a woman in the stomach because she had stomach pain. He's an animal. It's possible that creating this emotional environment, the guy just passed out. He's overwhelmed his senses. Who knows? But he got up and how about that? Just all that sort of thing. But you could tell he was looking around like, what's going on? He wasn't dead. Anyway, this is the kind of thing we have to deal with. We'll talk about it a little bit later on. Not Bentley, but the Donald. I also have a fairly lengthy, I don't know that we'll get to talk about the whole thing. It might take 6 weeks. But it occurred to me this week in response to some of the things that were going on that the Bible talks about a geopolitical system, a worldwide geopolitical system that actually offends God. God hates it. God's going to destroy it. No, it's not Russian communism. No, it's not totalitarianism, Islamic or otherwise. It's not Arabian monarchies. It's not America's Democratic Republic. It's not even socialism. It's something called globalism. The idea that the world would come together and be administered by one group or by one group of persons or by a person. And the Bible indicates that when this happens, it will be supported, aided by a worldly type of religion, a form of Christianity that's really not. The book of Revelation is just all over it. Did you hear the Pope at the UN? Did you hear the other guys at the UN? Did you hear your own president at the UN in the last week and a half? Did you know as soon as the Pope left town, the UN voted, 194 nations voted on the 2030 agenda? What is that? It's the blueprint for a global geopolitical system. And the world's on board. Huh? We'll talk about it. Do you know who the Sanhedrin are? Bible talks about them. In Jesus' day, he was taken before the Sanhedrin on that fateful night when he was arrested. It said he was taken to the palace and so forth, the great high priest, and Peter was there warming himself. And he was being investigated. It was the Sanhedrin who had the responsibility to do that. It is literally the gathering of the 70. There's been no Sanhedrin since the destruction of the temple in 70 AD. They're back. They have reconstituted in Israel the Sanhedrin. They have met, they have organized, and they have actually taken action in the last week or so. Reconstructed, they have recently passed judgment on the Pope and on President Obama. For what? The Pope, in the name of the church, recognized the Palestinian state. The flag of the Palestinian state was flown at the UN. Rabbi Khan, blood moons, Shemitah, in an effort perhaps to reclaim his glory, he was wrong about all that, came out this week to say that Hurricane Joaquin, you know Joaquin, we're all getting wet, that Hurricane Joaquin was God's judgment on the UN. He said that a couple of days, 3 or 4 days ago, when Joaquin was still in the Bahamas and all the computer models pointed that thing right straight at New York City. It's not going there now. Have you seen the model? Have you seen the storm? The storm has already passed Bermuda. And Bermuda's what, 600 miles off coast, and it's heading away from us on that kind of a trajectory. So it's just, the point was, and I thought he was just making this up. I looked it up and I talked to some people. Joaquin as a name has its derivation, its roots in Hebrew. And apparently Joaquin means, I think I wrote it down. Let me write it down here. Why didn't I write it down here? Oh, there it is. It means lifted by Jehovah, by Yahweh, or perhaps established by Yahweh. Huh? Prophets are not without ammunition. Finally, what do you do when you go to church? I know. Some of you just sway back and forth and you sing and you wave your arms and you have all these anthems and these wonderful things that sound so, and it makes you feel good. You just have a great time. But I mean, if you go to a real church, if you go to a church that's constituted the way the Bible says they're supposed to be constituted, what do you do in church? There's a fellow's written a new book. There are a couple of guys that contributed to it. One of them is George Barna. And I guess because, he's able to, does all these polls and things, and he can give you the statistics. But in this church, this fellow with a straight face is telling us that whatever we do in church, whatever it might be, in a traditional setting, it's pagan. That the whole thing has its roots in paganism. I wanted to read you some of the things that he listed, and I can't find real quick here. Oh, wait a minute, I went too far. That's what my problem is. Maybe I can find it. Oh, here it is. That you meet in a building for church. That's a pagan idea. That you sit there and listen to a sermon. That's a pagan idea. Or that you have a pastor. Or God forbid that you would pay the pastor a salary. That you would have Sunday school lessons. That you would sit in a pew. That the preacher would use a pulpit. That you would actually dress nicely to go to church. All of that's pagan. It's no wonder the 21st century church, the contemporary church, the worldly church, as we like to call it, has abandoned all of those things. Well, they haven't abandoned paying their pastor's salary. They have abandoned calling them pastors. They have abandoned calling it a church. They have abandoned showing any kind of respect by dressing beyond something you would do for a picnic or a ball game. Uh, anyway, and there are a number of other little things that are floating around. Maybe some more things will come to mind. You never know. Ben Carson is doubling down. Have you watched Ben Carson? He came out and he said, "You do know that we ought not to have a Muslim as president." Now, he didn't say we, but he says, "I can't vote for somebody like that. A person who was committed to the Islamic religion." No. He got grief. The press went crazy. They started polls. They tried to run the guy nuts. What did he do? He doubled down. He came back around and explained why he said what he said. He didn't try to say, "Well, I really wasn't talking about that." No, he said, "This is what I said." And they went nuts. And he came back several days later to explain in detail what he was just saying and talked about, I can't pronounce the dumb thing, but there's a doctrine, a principle in Islam that requires in some cases that a Muslim lie in order to ingratiate themselves into your life or to your country's life until they have some authority, have some clout, and then they jump. And I mean, the woods are full of illustrations of this sort of thing. And they went crazy over this guy. He's nuts. You can't elect a man president who says things like that. Have you seen the polls? Every time Dr. Carson opens his mouth about this, his numbers go up. Huh? Every time that Donald talks about building a wall down there on the coast of the border of Mexico, numbers go up. What does that mean? Even liberal media starting to talk about it. Morning Joe. I mean, they're having a real problem with Hillary. They don't understand her at all. But if you don't take Hillary, you take a socialist. Are we going to elect a socialist? Is the Democrat Party going to run a socialist? They wanted to be the one to run a woman first. Now they're going for a socialist. I don't know that we would do that. We probably would. News says that Joe Biden's going to make his decision this week as to what he's going to do. He's getting in. You know he is. Anyway, we've got an hour and a half ahead of us. That's the kind of thing we're going to talk about. I don't have enough time, so we'll probably talk fast. Just buckle yourself in, and we'll get started.